blessings, and welcome to the path to freedom and this beautiful space today, where we get to, as always, set ourselves free to be in ever expanding peace and love and joy and harmony and wholeness, where we get to, as always, set ourselves free to shine, to shine, to soar, to fly, to glow, where we, as always, get to set ourselves free to forever love for greater and grander expressions of who and what we are to emerge. My name is Daniel Roquillo, and I'm very grateful that you're choosing to tune in, whoever you are and whenever you are. It is a magnificent moment. It is a magnificent space to be in, and I'm very grateful that you are choosing to join me here. The topic for today is actually it's a quote. It's something that I heard Eckhart Tolle say a while ago, and I think it speaks so beautifully to what this path is all about. And the quote is, "What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, we call a butterfly." What the caterpillar calls the end of the world, we call a butterfly. And it speaks so beautifully to, as I said, what this path is all about, where we continuously get to set ourselves free to soar, to shine, to glow, to release and let go of that which no longer serves. How we continuously get to die to our littleness, where we continuously get to allow for that who we used to be to dissolve, to be transmuted, to be transformed into who we are now. And as we have talked about before, this is a messy process. This is a messy process. When the caterpillar moves into that chrysalis or the cocoon, it literally dissolves, so it ceases to exist. And that is why it is crying out, "Help! What's happening? My world is crumbling. Oh, it's the end of the world. I'm gonna cease to exist." and and that is kind of how the ego experiences this within us, as we are allowing for ourselves to expand, when we are allowing for our consciousness to expand, when we are allowing for new iteration of who we are to emerge, to well up from within us, to come into fruition, to come into being, a part of the ego dies. It loses its power over us. So the messiness, a part of the messiness that all this is the ego putting up such a fight, a whole lot of resistance, a whole lot of fear and worry and doubt, a whole lot of confusion. Because when the ego, when who we used to be, when it begins to dissolve and who we are becoming has not yet fully emerged, there's that space, a messy space in between. It's called chemicalization. It's sometimes referred to as the dark night of the soul, but whatever we call it, it is a turbulent space. We no longer recognize ourselves, and we no longer quite know who we used to be or who we are. We know who we used to be, but apparently and obviously we're not that individual anymore, because we are not moving in the same way through life. We're not responding in the same way to life. We're not interacting in the same way. We're not thinking the same. We're not speaking the same. We're not being the same. So transformation is happening, but that new that is emerging, it has not yet been stabilized. It has not yet. It's like in Star Trek when they're using the what is it called? When they are transporting, and as they are transporting from the surface or from one place to another, they're standing on this, they are in a physical coherence, and then that coherence begins to break up and begins to shatter into tiny fragments or tiny pieces. I don't know the technology behind it. And then these tiny fragments flows through time and space into wherever spot or place that they are beaming to, right? And sometimes if there's interference, like static in the atmosphere or something else, it takes some time before they come back into coherence. So they have lost their coherence and they're being transported, and then they're supposed to be put back into coherence. But sometimes when there's interference, that coherence takes a little time. And that is kind of what this is. So we used to be coherent. We used to know exactly who we are, or how we're moving through the world, and then that image, that version begins to break up. An incoherence begins to take over, and then we're being transported into a different version of who we are. But it takes some time before that version comes into coherence. And in that space, it is very messy. So while many of us, and it is perfectly, I remember the first times I went through this, and I thought I was losing my mind. I did not know what was happening. I was scared. I was afraid. I thought something was wrong. I remember at one point even considering going to checking myself into the a mental facility because I absolutely and literally thought I was losing my mind. That was a number of years ago, and of course I've been moving through many of these spaces, and I'm actually moving through one of these spaces right now where who I used to be is no more. Who I'm becoming has not yet fully materialized. It has not fully come into coherence yet. So I'm in that space where the caterpillar is shouting, "Oh, this is the end of the world. My world is falling apart. I'm dying." And even though it's turbulent still, I kind of enjoy it. I enjoy it because I know that this is good in progress. It's been a long time since I said it, but sometimes feeling bad is good in progress. So moving through these beautiful spaces of incoherence, of falling into pieces, of falling apart, of dissolving, they are blessings. They are gifts and blessings. We cannot avoid them any more than the caterpillar can avoid going through that it's not called chemicalization, it's called metamorphosis. We cannot avoid the chemicalization or the incoherence any more than the caterpillar can avoid the metamorphosis if the butterfly is to emerge. I mean, the caterpillar could remain a caterpillar for all of its life, but then the butterfly would not emerge, right? So, and being on this path, when we have been walking this path long enough, there is no turning back, right? We kind of like the caterpillar. Once it's moved into the chrysalis, once it's shut itself or closed itself off or locked itself in, there's no going back to being a caterpillar. But all it can do is just keep on moving forward, and that is so with us. So as we're moving through these turbulent spaces, all we can do is keep moving forward, keep allowing, keep trusting. It is all about trust. We've been talking a whole lot about trust. It is all about trust, and which is the single reason, the only reason why I can sit here smack in the middle of this transformation, in this coherence, in this dissolution, and still be laughing and enjoying it, because I so know that something wonderful is happening. I so know that everything is working for the highest good. Even when it's not feeling too good, I still know it. So we get to trust. We get to come back to trusting that this loving presence that is all there is, and this can be applied to the micro, it can be applied to the macro, and everything in between. We get to trust that this loving presence, that it is all there is. It is the all in all. It is fully present in every space and place, and being a moment and object, because it is all of these. It is the creator, it is the creation, So it is every single space and place and moment and being an object, which means that there is no space nor place where we can ever be or go where this loving presence is not. So we get to trust that, the allness of this loving presence. We also get to trust the goodness, the benevolence of it, that whatever happens, whenever it happens, this loving presence is always for itself. It is always for it. It cannot ever be against itself. It cannot ever contradict itself. It cannot ever compromise itself or go against itself. It is not out of malice that the caterpillar, that metamorphosis has been designed in such a way that the caterpillar ceases to exist. That's not spirit being ill-minded or evil or I don't even know the words for malicious and malevolent, or whatever the opposite of benevolent is. So it is always for itself, right? And then we also get to trust that this loving presence, that it is always expressing itself perfectly, which simply means that whenever we move into, whenever we find ourselves in this state and space of metamorphosis, it is the perfect time for us to be here now. It is never too early. It is never too late. Yes, it may feel, and we may have preferences, and we may have judgments and opinions as to the relevance or the convenience of it. But whenever the time is right for us to be moved into transformation, into dissolution, into the dying of our littleness, that is the perfect time for us to be here now. So we get to trust all of these beautiful things. And as we do, moving through these spaces becomes a whole lot easier. I think it was Dr. Howard Thurman that said that, and he was speaking in reference to the dark night of the soul, and he was saying something to the effect of we navigate by remembered radiance, or something like that. And what that means is that as we are moving into this space, this sometimes very dark space, where everything that we used to know, everything that we used to believe that we knew, everything all the good that we could see everywhere, and the benevolence and the gifts and the blessings, all of that is gone. It is vanished, and all we see now is this pitch darkness. It is pitch dark. It is pitch black. We have no idea. The map is completely new. We're being placed in a completely new map, just tossed into it, just tossed into this very confusing space with no reference points, no navigational tools whatsoever, because all of these, they are no longer working. But we perhaps remember what we used to believe. We perhaps remember in which direction we were moving. We perhaps remember our old affirmations or our old principles or whatever tools we used to lean into. And even though they are not as effective anymore, even if they are not perhaps lifting us up as they used to, we can still lean into them. So we walk by remembered, that's how we said it. We learn to walk by remembered radiance. So we walk in the same way that we used to walk, even though we are different. Even when we are dissolving, even when we are changing, transmuting, transforming, we still keep on walking, keep on leaning into what we used to lean into, even if it doesn't necessarily comfort us in the same way as it used to. Once again, trusting that all is well, trusting that something wonderful is happening, trusting that everything is working for the highest good. Because, hey, as that caterpillar screams out, "This is the end of the world," that is only the beginning of something. And I'm not saying that a butterfly is better, but I am saying that there's an up leveling of the expressed beauty. The butterfly and the caterpillar, they are not the same creatures. And how the butterfly expresses and reveals beauty and lightness and all these beautiful qualities, it is an expanded version of the caterpillar. So the messiness that the caterpillar goes through, it is something good happening. It is good in progress. It is expansion happening. It is healing in the sense, not that the caterpillar is broken or is in need of fixing, but the butterfly is revealing more of the beauty, of the peace, of the lightness, of the flowiness, of the grace that spirit is. So there is an upgrading happening, which is all for the highest good. Which is all for the highest good. So that is our invitation in this moment, that when we move through the messiness, to bring into mind the messiness that the caterpillar goes through, and how the butterfly, and how that is necessary for the butterfly to emerge. So that helps us understand that the messiness that we are going through, it is necessary for the next iteration of who and what we are to emerge. And this messiness, it can be complete messiness, and it can be a lighter version of it. But regardless, there is a chemicalization happening. Regardless, there is a transformation happening, which is all for the good. So we just keep on walking. We just keep on leaning in. And we keep a beautiful question to ask in these moments, in these spaces, is, how can I serve myself? How can I love myself up? How can I be as loving and kind towards myself as I'm falling apart? As my life is falling apart, as who I used to be is literally dissolving before my eyes. How can I be as loving and kind towards myself as possible? Because we will emerge on the other side, and beating ourselves up, forcing ourselves, trying to push ourselves forward, trying to speed anything up, trying to make anything happen, that serves not the iteration that is emerging, that is being born. That serves not the rebirthing that we are undergoing. So that's the invitation, and those are the questions. Until we meet again, thank you so much for tuning in, for participating. I absolutely know. I absolutely know that all is well, that something wonderful is happening, that everything is working for our highest good. So I bless our days, and I bless our ways. Much love, many blessings. Namaste.